tie a thin string.
On arrête s'il vous plaît. Vous êtes gentil, merci.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Annette Insdorf, and welcome to the press conference for The Bad Lieutenant. First of all, there will be a simultaneous translation available. If you wish headphones for French, please get them. And secondly, we ask that you please not use any flashes during the press conference because there is a televising taking place and that interrupts it. The best way of introducing the gentleman to my left is to probably ask, what do the following films have in common? Badlands, Terrence Malick's first feature, Oliver Stone's first film, The Hand, and then Wall Street and Talk Radio, Reversal of Fortune, To Sleep with Anger, the Taviani's Good Morning Babylon, David Mamet's Homicide. These are just a few of the films produced by Ed Pressman. And these also will include, within the next few months, Hoffa, directed by Danny DeVito, another first-time director, Ed Pressman.
Yay!
To my right, Zoe Tamerlane Lund is perhaps best known as an actress, indeed from Abel Ferrara's Ms. 45, where she played a vengeful rape victim. But as an actress, she's also been in Larry Cohen's film Special Effects, co-starring Eric Bogosian, Temi Lopez's Exquisite Corpses. But as a screenwriter, there's Curfew USA, based on her own novel, and she's indeed a writer of other novels and short stories. Right. Zoe Tamerlane Lund.
Short, very short story. Him and I have a gas station in Coney Island. That's our credits. We made Pressman and gives first-time directors big shots. You're not going to run this down. Come on. I mean, they know who we are.
I'm just going to tell them who they are.
Come on.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
come on,
I guess Abel Ferrara does not need an introduction,
yeah.
so that's Abel Ferrara. And finally, I should mention that although Harvey Keitel...
From Brooklyn.
Yeah. All right, Harvey Keitel's the actor from Brooklyn, but I will tell you, just to refresh the memory, because some of the critics here are not from the United States, that he is here this year in Cannes, not only with this film, but Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, which he also co-produced. And I should mention, too, that his work with Paul Schrader is perhaps what he's best known for. Well, with Martin Scorsese is best known. But for James Toback, he starred in Fingers and Exposed. And then it was Toback's script for Bugsy that gave Harvey Keitel the Oscar-nominated performance as Mickey Cohen. Harvey Keitel. Okay, are there some questions that you'd like to start with, or should I begin? I'd like to actually, well, go ahead, Jamie. Could we get the microphone down here, please?
For Mr. Keitel, you have two movies here in which you play pretty tough guys, and you do that a lot in your career. I wondered, what is it about you that gets you cast this way?
Sorry, what?
What is it about you that gets you these roles?
What is about your personality that gets the tough guy image?
His agent gets him.
I don't know the answer to that.
Some feeling about that.
Well, you begin with the premise that they're all such tough guys, and right away we have a difference of opinion about what tough might be, so it's difficult to approach an answer.
Well, what do you think tough is?
Dealing with this question is...
And that's why you should stick with it.
in an honest manner. So I think maybe I'm being tough now.
You are being tough. Could you try to stick with it and give an answer?
Uh-oh, she's tough. TUF.
No, I'm not going to answer that question because I think it's up to Abel to answer that question, and those people who chose what it is I have as a human being to work with. You're asking me, what is it they see in me? Well, what do you see in me? Maybe you can answer the question better than I can. I have my own ideas about what I am and what I am not, and what I need to learn and have learned. So, whenever drink later, call me.
Maybe Mr. Ferrara can address it. Turn it over to you.
I think that actually the character in The Bad Lieutenant, LT, was actually vulnerable. Vulnerable in the sense that, for one thing, he was fertile. He could be impregnated to relay the nun's task. And as such, he was much more open, much more vulnerable, much more fertile than most people, than the vast majority of people. And as such, he poses a challenge for people to be just as vulnerable to posing the challenge to oneself to do something as ultimate and as transforming and as ultimately redeeming as an act as he did commit at the end of the film. And that's not tough at all in the sense of having a thick skin or some such. He had a very thin, delicate skin.
If I can ask Abel Ferrara, did you write this part directly for Harvey Keitel?
You know, I did, without even, I didn't know Harvey at that point. I'd met him just once briefly. And it's strange because usually when you think about, when you're at the stage before you make the film, I never ever think of actual people, you know, these imaginary people that don't exist. But somehow, you know, it worked out too, you know, for the best. That he was available and, you know, willing to play the part. Next question. Yeah, ask another question.
There's one down there.
Audience one, panel one, yeah. Yeah.
I believe it's on. Could you help?
Go ahead, we can hear you, only 5 feet away. Go ahead, you can. Now what?
If not, I'll repeat the
All
question.
right, go ahead. Go ahead, we'll repeat your question.
Very simple. It was in colloquial language of the film. What the fuck is it all about and why? Why such intense depravities? Closer. I want from any one of the...
It was a mission of...
The question was, in the colloquial language of the film, what the fuck is the film about?
And why?
And why?
Why are we subjected to this kind of...
Subjected.
Oh, subjective. Well,
Well, one is
did we lock
subjected
the
on and
door
off the
behind you,
screen to that
sweetheart?
depravity.
We could have left, you know.
He was going down as far as he could to go up. He was transgressing in a mission to discover he did not know what at first. But ultimately, as we know, he rose to the challenge. But it was in order to trust someone's love, one has to see their rage. In order to trust someone's sanctity, one has to see their depravity. I believe this. And I believe that his transgressions and his mission almost of self-destruction was actually a sort of odyssey. One can say that he was on the wrong track, but nonetheless it was an odyssey. He was pushing the envelope, pushing the limits in an attempt to discover he didn't know what, but he finally found out what it was indeed when he was faced with a terminal choice. And instead of taking a way out, a mode of escape, he faced it and ultimately gave his life.
Abel, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
I don't think I could.
Okay.
Next question.
I actually also have one question because I erroneously suggested that Abel Ferrara wrote the screenplay. It was co-written by Zoe and Abel.
Yeah.
And I did have a question about how you collaborated, whether you indeed sat down together to write the whole thing or did each of you write different parts of it?
Abel had the conception of writing a film based on this event of the nun actually being raped, which did occur. And I believe that the character of LT, he's told me and others that he sees films in terms of a character, and I think he had nurtured the concept of the character for many years. And he came to me with the idea of such a character and the actual event of the nun being raped, which all the ancillary surrounding circumstances of that actual case had not little to do with the film, but of the sense of a nun being violated. And with that, I wrote it, and we did meet very, very often to discuss the progression of the writing. And ultimately, I think it was a very, very good collaboration. And we had a lot of fun.
Alex Horvath from Austria. Mr. Ferrara, how closely connected are your last film, The King of New York, and this film for you?
Oh, that's a good question. How closely connected? Well, you know, I mean, I don't think I could have made this film unless I made that film, you know. But I think it's just, you know, it's a part of just growing as a filmmaker, you know. And, you know, I mean, obviously I directed them both, but it's you know, The Bad Lieutenant is just, you know, a step in a progression towards better films, you know, more sincere work, you know.
I think it's a direct line even from Miss 45 to Bad Lieutenant in the sense that it's one character who is, well, I won't monopolize, but I think that all these films have certain similarities.
Is there a question over there?
It's a Greek television. I would like to ask Mr. Keitel in which way he was inspired with his character in Abel Ferrara's movie.
In which way I was...
Inspired.
Yes, by his character in that movie.
Okay. I think I'm very reluctant to sit here and discuss this film at all. With all due respect to all of you, I feel your questions are right. They're all right. This lady's outrage, I think, is right. Her difficulty in coping with it, I think, is right. I have the same difficulty. I join her in it. I wanted to attempt to cope with this difficulty of examining this lack of, this great difficulty in doing what's right, when so often the temptation to do what's wrong is present in my experience of living. How at times I have tried to answer some of the questions that Zoe and Abel pose in their text. A need to do what's right, and yet drawn to do what's not right.
I think I think Dostoevsky said that once you know that it's good to be good, you're not lost. And I think that has a lot to do with it also. And life usually gives you but one chance to really do it with a capital I, whatever that particular it is for your individual life. And perhaps Joe Dokes or Jean Lapon won't go out and give his life or martyr himself, but perhaps he'll change his life, you know. Everyone has their own way of salvation.
Sorry, let me just add something, because I think her outrage is, for me, the success of this film. It's difficult to look at what is disturbing. And all we have to do is look around us, and everything is disturbing. And why? That's why I made this film. As long as we continue, I feel, as long as I continue not to look at what disturbs me, I will not be able to pass on to my own daughter what disturbance she will meet up with in her life, and she will. Okay. Something in that area.
Next question.
I also wanted to raise one question for the producer, Ed Pressman. What was it about this particular project that made you want to get involved, considering that your approach to do hundreds of films per year and do only a few?
Abel and I met a number of times discussing ideas and stories that I was suggesting to Abel, and we just talked about many different ideas of working together on. I admired his work. Every time we would talk about the other subjects, Abel would come back to this notion of the Bad Lieutenant, and it was like the one idea that seemed so central to his artistic vision, and it became like a joke, because no matter what we talked about, he would start coming back to this story. So finally, it seemed that this was the story to do, nothing else. So it was really that.
Okay. Any questions there?
I'd like to ask Mr. Pressman if the theme of cops returning to their religious origins interests you, because I saw you discussing that last year with David Mamet here with homicide. Is there a theme here? Is it reflecting something in our society? Bad cops are returning to their roots, or?
The thematic producer.
I think both Mamet and Abel are exploring, their own emotional center. I think Mamet really didn't deal with his Jewishness very much in his earlier work, and Abel with his Catholicism, I think, is very central. So I mean, it's an interesting parallel, but it wasn't conscious. No.
Because was it conscious on your part? The answer was no. Mike, down here, please.
For Mr. Ferrara, whether you agree or not, I see a similarity with Scorsese. And I wondered if, Marty, I wondered if you feel that there is a New York cinema, and if so, are you part of it?
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's from the same place, basically, but it's another generation, in the same way he's from Manhattan, and he's from Brooklyn, and I'm from the Bronx, and so it's almost like there's a lot of cities in one city, But there's a New York sensibility, I think,
Is it easily accessible to other places?
Is it easily accessible to other places?
What's that?
The New York sensibility.
Meaning what? No, you just clarify the question. Is it easy?
Well, I noticed in the screening that mixed in with a lot of applause, there were some scattered boos as well.
Really? I didn't see the whole thing. Where'd they boo? We'll cut it out.
I wasn't one of the people booing, so... Actually, I'd like to hear from the people who booed what it was, whether it's just the violence or whether
booed?
it's...
Let's come on and show here.
Is there anyone here who really hated it? That would be interesting if they could speak up.
Yeah, who didn't like it? Besides the people on the panel.
Who wants to tell us to fuck ourselves?
And Patrick, don't you dare read it.
Well, I don't think we're getting an overwhelming response to that question, so we'll let that go.
Do you feel
But
the New York sensibility travels?
Yeah, because it doesn't, it's not indigenous. I mean, we could have shot that film in Utah, I think it has more to do with the people. And like what Harvey was talking about before, I couldn't put it half as well. But that's not locked into any geographical place,
Even the names in the film are LT is his name, and then you have the nun and the junkie and so on, and the whole thing is almost the quality of a medieval mystery play in a certain sense, where it's universal in that sense. This New York, of course, I love New York, and there is a New York sensibility, but I think The Bad Lieutenant poses a universal challenge, and I think that this one man alone in Bad Lieutenant, LT, it sounds very corny, but he is all of us.
But Jesus lives in New York. Uptown.
there's a mic, please, here.
Here we go.
Mr. Ferrara, a few years after, what do you think of Kate Chaser?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I speak bad English.
No, it's
A few years.
Dites-le en français, je peux le traduire.
Après, que vous pensez de Kate Chaser?
De Cat Chaser. One of Abel Ferrara's films was Cat Chaser from Elmore Leonard, starring Peter Weller. And the question was, what do you think of the film?
Tonight.
What do you think of the film that you made of it?
It's incoherent. It's a disaster. It's taken over by producers. It's terrible. It was recut, and you get to a point where in the editing room you're gonna have to kill somebody or leave. And I wasn't about to do life in prison over that film. You know what I mean? So I let them cut it. They put it. It's just great. You never seen it. They have a narration. One of the producers was totally cracked, right? So he took like a perfectly normal film, and now it was like, and now he gets out of the car. A guy that wasn't even well, right? He's going, and now he gets out of the car. Now he's going to have coffee, and now he puts sugar in the coffee. And someone else walks in. The sky's blue. Oh, there's a shot of a guy, right? There's like a running You gotta hear, it's a running voiceover from beginning to end. Because the producer is so fucked up, he didn't realize that, he thought no one was gonna understand a movie. Even like a 5-year-old could understand a movie. It was like as stupid as, concept. But unfortunately for us all involved, there's a cut somewhere that works, of that film that you could watch it without throwing up. But I mean, the official, whatever came out is, forget about it.
I'd also like to ask one question because this afternoon, I don't know if you noticed this, but some of the people thought the film was ending at the moment that Harvey Keitel walks away from the bus. A lot of people just started getting up, thinking, applauding, and of course it wasn't
weren't applauding. The people wanted to get out.
No, some people were applauding as they were leaving. But what I'm asking is, I'm asking a question. For you, how different? How different the vision would have been had the film ended there. I just want you to talk a little about the very last scene that almost seemed like an epilogue in terms of the way that the audience responded. Yeah.
No, it was in the original screenplay, wasn't it?
I mean, absolutely.
And how different,
it's essential.
Abel, how different would the film have been for you in terms? Abel, come back, come back. How different, though? I mean, what is it about the last shot that for you makes that the ending as opposed to letting him walk away, which is what people thought was happening?
But you could walk away. You see, movies, who knows what a movie's about? We could have had him walking away, and that could have been an ending, So we go in the actual show the moment where he gets shot. Half the people who saw that, they thought he committed suicide instead of getting shot. And they run up to me and say, oh my God, I thought he committed suicide. I said, who cares? If you thought he committed suicide, then that's what you saw. If you thought he got shot, then that's what you saw. If you feel like getting the hell out of the theater at that point, leave. I mean, you're getting up to go. Fine, that's the reaction. You took as much as you want. I mean, whether you sat for that last shot isn't going to change what that film is about.
Okay, that's what I want to. Okay.
They'll see it on tape.
I don't know.
At an appointment, come on, they were sitting for an hour and a half. When you want to leave a theater, you're waiting for any shot that indicates. I saw Deep Cover last week. I was waiting for any shot to indicate the film was over. I got up 10 times. The only person I was with had the car, right? So, and he wanted to stay, and he hated the movie, but he wanted to stay to the last shot to confirm how much he hated it, right? Every time I said, oh, here we go, let's go. No, another 5 minutes. I had such compassion for these people who left. Like the minute they heard one note of music, goodbye, great, it's over. You can leave without insulting the filmmakers,
Well, I may have been silly, but I was the voice that was screaming, ce n'est pas la fin, ce n'est pas la fin. Because for me it's important. I just feel that if you allow him just to walk off, then it is just another movie, angst-ridden movie where, oh, la la, he's screaming, he's howling, he's vomiting, and he's going to go off and have a lot of angst for the rest of his life. And it takes refuge in a whole psychological bullshit, bouillabaisse, and it's not... This in these times, in other times, perhaps people might even have surmised that he would do what he did at the end, simply seeing him walk away. And aesthetically, it's very beautiful when he walks away with the music and so on. But particularly in these times where people would have the tendency to want him simply to have walked away, to want it not to have that final point. I think it was necessary to show it, and we did discuss it, but it was never really a question. It was there in the original, and he had to do it. He had to do it, or it would have been different, in my opinion. It would have been a very different film. And I wanted people to see that.
One question here and then one here.
My outrage has dissipated somewhat. Mr. Postman, could you please...
it's all his fault. It wasn't really.
Could you please indicate to me whether you've managed to tie up sufficient distribution deals internationally, whether you've had any obstacles from the people who've seen what they've seen so far? Has it been a particularly difficult film to sell?
Yes.
They're beating down your door. Come on, tell me.
I think the response to the film when the first reviews came in. Well, I guess first the selection of the film to this festival turned some people around. Then Variety and Screen International had very, very enthusiastic responses. So now a lot of people who were sort of scared of the film are now coming back and are very interested in distributing it in the States. I think our Japanese distributor was a little scared by it, and different distributors around the world, when they first see the film, they wonder, what to make of it. And I think that the response to the film, this was the first public screening. We never had an audience for this film before, and I think it's been very encouraging. And I think the basic thrust right now is very positive.
Sir.
This film poses more questions to me than it can answer.
Is the microphone on?
I wonder, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder, did you ever consult anyone in the Catholic Church about this thing? Or did you just write it that way, that this woman, this nun, pardons the men, the boys? Did you just do that by yourself?
The question, I gather you didn't hear in the back. Did you ever consult anyone in the Catholic Church about the film in terms of the details about the nun?
I put myself into the head of a person who is a true Catholic. I tried to just be almost a saint, and I wrote it in about 20 minutes, and it's a lot longer than it is in the film, actually. The whole thing was shot, which was courageous, but it had to be cut down for the final. But I think most of the essence of it is there. However, the nun's confession is something that I believe passionately is an extremely Catholic statement, and something very beautiful. I can't read it aloud without crying, and I believe it's true. And I just wanted to speak with the voice of somebody who was profoundly Catholic in the very, very best sense.
There is this question that whether the Catholic Church, whether the Catholic
I did not
religion
consult.
Catholic religion can be above the state. Huh? That's after all the question. As a personal story, I can accept it because he was not a very perfect policeman anyway. So one can accept it, but otherwise, why should these boys get away? This thing does not...
The question is, why should these boys get away? Is the Catholic Church above the state?
At the end of the original complete statement of the nun's confession, the nun says, some of this statement is actually there, some of these words: "I've never heard a prayer so legible, so anguished, so poignant. Two young men who threw themselves upon the altar and took me with them. I gave nothing, I did nothing. I only hope that someone will." That is the original text. And in a sense, LT relays her task, and the letting go of the boys is a juncture of his own personal destiny and his own personal way of salvation, with also an act of ultimate forgiveness, to the point where it is almost a sort of acte gratuit, and but of ultimate forgiveness of these boys that is at once his own salvation. And he gives his life for two sinners in an extremely profound sense, of course.
I understand all that. One can understand it as a personal, but I hope it is not an example for everybody. Yeah? Otherwise, we really get anywhere.
In that sense, I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, the Catholic Church's position on abortion, I mean, they're putting themselves above the state, yeah? Right? You know, so.
J'aimerais savoir d'Abel Ferrara pourquoi il a presque toujours choisi des films qui ont des personnages qui vont jusqu'au but. Ils sont des personnages hors les lignes, si on peut dire. Et le but, c'est presque toujours la mort. Ça signifie quoi?
For Abel Ferrara, could you please tell us why it is that most of your characters tend to be pushed to the very limits, to the extreme, which is usually death? Could you discuss that a bit?
Well, I mean, that to make a film, I don't know, interesting for both sides, you know, for the filmmakers and for the audience. I mean, why stop? I mean, you have to take that character and, you know, make him live it out all the way, you know. Or challenge, you know, it's not a challenge. I mean, it's why not? I don't know, you know.
Why not is the answer, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you got to. I mean, it's like the job at hand.
That's the only way we can go to the end in film, is in a sense, is through those characters.
I want to ask the co-writers, the two people that worked on the screenplay, about the baseball game, which seemed to me to be kind of a subtext or a subplot. And I wondered whether that just kind of happened serendipitously, or did you plot that out carefully? Because it seemed like there was
It was very well plotted. In fact, the various sections of the screenplay had actually subtitles, in a sense, stating the status of the gambling debt as it rose. And we consulted an expert in the field of gambling, and Abel consulted experts in the field of baseball and so on. And yes.
Yeah, a lot of energy and work went into that. I mean, we created that whole reality, and yeah, you know, we went for it with the guys, the talk show guys in the beginning, even going for Bob Murphy at the end. You know, something that was like, you know, we're into baseball, so it was important that it was done right. But it was, obviously a fictitious series, but we put it together with the footage and the whole deal. And now just hope we don't meet Daryl Strawberry in the dark house.
We can get a mic down here, please.
How's Daryl going to like the movie?
I wanted to also ask a question for Abel. The rape scene itself is accompanied by music, a sort of disco beat. And I was curious why you decided to do that on the soundtrack with those images.
I don't know. It was something about that song, Schoolie D's song, the Signifying Rapper, which was based on a lick from Led Zeppelin. I don't know. Somehow it just connected for me. You know, that song to the film. For no particular reason. I don't know why. I don't know. It just worked. I don't know why. It's hard to tell. You know, when you edit, you put different things with different images, but that was, there's no logical reason. You know what I mean? It's like we couldn't explain it.
I think the rap should be subtitled when it's particularly legible. I think the rap should be subtitled, just like I've seen other songs subtitled in other films. It should be subtitled in this as well. There are a lot of funny and significant lines in the rap.
For Mr. Pressman, and this is based solely on appearance and nothing else, but you seem like a very different kind of guy from Mr. Ferrara. And I wondered how you two got along.
Don't let looks fool you.
Whether you had a meeting of the minds and how much, if any, input you had in the movie.
I enjoy working with Abel enormously, and I think, at least intellectually, I certainly feel like connection.
Same mind and body. And we're on to bigger and better. We're going to announce our slate of films on our yacht. Only him and I get seasick, so we can't. Where is our yacht?
Is there a question? There was in the middle there, please.
Let's get it. I think we're bored.
You directed a few episodes of a series in America. I can't remember the name. It was in the 50s.
Miami Vice?
No, it wasn't Miami Vice. It's on
Crime Stories.
Crime Stories, right.
Pilot.
And we've seen a few episodes here. And I was wondering how it worked in America, and was it successful or not? And why did you work on TV? And do you intend to do it again in the future?
Wait, was it
successful in the United States? Why did you work in television?
Hey, there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce to you the poster maker of all. Hey, go ahead, introduce yourself. Come on, say it. Hey! You did the poster you had. Go ahead, say it. Let them know you. Turn
I don't know if you saw it, but the artwork that was done for the advertising campaign for the Bad Lieutenant, me and Abel, we created it. It's his idea, his madness, and I just made it become a reality. So, great film, fantastic film.
Yeah, he loved it. Excellent. No, he really got off on fire. Crime Story, yeah, it was, successful for me. Just opened up a lot of I know, just working with actual police officers on that level and of that insanity really might have triggered some of the stuff here. Yeah, television, yeah, I'm into it, big time. Well, we're going to do a series, but then we got fired, so. Yeah, very much interested in television.
You're also, Abel, are you currently directing Body Snatchers with Meg Tilly?
Yeah, the invasion of the body snatchers.
What relationship
Part 3.
What relationship does it have to the original?
None. No.
Is it a completely, no, seriously?
What, from Siegel?
From the original
It's
invasion.
based on the original book. There's a book actually behind all these movies, which no one knows about. So it's based on the original material.
Okay. And what status right now? Is it finished shooting or?
They're it's being edited as I sit here smoking cigarettes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? We have time for about one more. And if I don't see any more questions, I just thank Harvey Keitel, Abel Ferrara, Zoe Lund, and Pressman for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.